But overall, I realized that even though there is that pressure, pressure makes diamonds. And
Mhm.
regardless, like you just got to get it done.
Mhm.
And who cares if a person says like, "Oh, he only won because he's black," or he's or he's only pushing like different things for a certain part of the community, or he's not good enough. As long as I know myself that what I'm doing is important and is going to help benefit the community at hand, and I know genuinely that I'm listening to the people that I'm serving and doing the things that they're asking me to do or wanting to see on campus, then that's all that matters.
Mhm.
As long as you continue to let outside voices dictate your path, you'll never find the true path that's for you.
Hello, and welcome to Student Affairs Now. I'm your host, Keith Edwards. Today, we're discussing the experiences of student body presidents. We have two folks joining us today who have taken on these roles at very different institutions, and I'm really excited to learn from both of you. Student Affairs Now is the premier podcast in an online learning community for thousands of us who work in, alongside, or adjacent to the field of higher education and student affairs. We release new episodes every week on Wednesdays. Find details about this episode or browse our archives at studentaffairsnow.com. Today's episode is sponsored by Simplicity. A true partner, Simplicity supports all aspects of student life with technology platforms that empower institutions to make data-driven decisions. As I mentioned, I'm your host, Keith Edwards. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a speaker, consultant, and coach. And you can find out more about me at keithedwards.com. I'm broadcasting from Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the intersections of the ancestral homelands of the Dakota and the Ojibwe peoples. I'm so excited to have both of you here today. Let's meet both of you and learn a little bit about your role as a student body president. Jermaine, let's start with you.
Well, thanks for having me first off, Keith. Today I'm excited to be on the podcast. My name is Jermaine Turner. I go by JT usually on campus. That's what people know me by. But I'm a senior integrative studies major on the pre-law track, graduating this May, literally in 4 weeks. So I'm very excited. And I'm kind of at the inroads of being student body president. But a little bit about me, I'm from Dallas, Texas, which I consider the greatest city known to mankind. Yes, I am a Dallas Cowboys fan before, anybody probably asks or whatever. So I am a Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm gonna stick beside them. I love my city. I grew up in a suburb called Duncanville, Texas, a little bit of outside, about a 30-45 minute drive from Dallas. And from there I graduated from Duncanville High School. I talk about my high school experience and my experience K through 12 just because that is where a lot of my family really poured into me, and not only that, but also teachers, my church community that really built up the man that I would become and prepared me
Mhm.
for college. And in high school, I was in student council, I was a student athlete, so I was pretty involved there as well. And then that just kind of translated into college. When I got to the University of Texas in fall of 2019, I was very optimistic about the school. UNT was not on my top five list at all. It just so happened that they were the school that was going to pay me to go to school, and my grandmother was an alum, so that kind of just made sense to go
Mhm.
at that point. And so I came to the university very optimistic, not sure what to expect. And from there, that experience translated into me being so involved on campus from many different roles and having different jobs before I became student body president, like being the Black Student Union president. I was an orientation leader, worked in housing as a resident assistant for the Marshall Eagle Living Learning Community, which is an LLC dedicated for Black men, for Black male retention within their first year, because we know Black men make up about 3% of our campus, but yet have the highest non-retention rate.
Mhm.
So that program really helped us with academics and just staying focused and having that type of community. And so after doing all those experiences, and about the end of my junior year, it just came to terms of like, I've been a part of the student government for all these years, done these multiple leadership experiences, worked these multiple jobs. So I asked Malia Shallow, who was a good friend of mine. We had also went to the same high school, Duncanville High School, as well together. And then we decided to run to build a campus that was more reflective of what we thought the actual needs of students were. So this
Mhm.
year we've been able to bring in a very transformational experience to our student government. We've increased our membership. We've been able to finally secure a wage increase for all student workers on campus, but that also pushed our president to look at, having a livable wage for everybody, including staff and faculty on campus as well. And he's made a commitment to that. We relocated our condom machine to have a safer location for students to um, be able to get those, their condoms, their lubes, and be in privacy instead of out in the public. And then also we just made a very transparent SGA this year with our different programs and events, hosting more programs and events than any other administration has did in the last 10 years. And we just finished up our elections, and we know that vote count is the highest increase we've seen since COVID. So I think that what we've done this year has worked, and that's just kind of a little bit about me and my experience so far.
That's awesome. Thanks for that, JT. And Akheem, tell us a little bit about you. I saw you smiling and nodding along, probably some similarities and some differences.
No, I think Jermaine or JT, whichever one you prefer. I think that you're amazing. Just hearing everything that you're doing right now, I mean, go off. Like I'm super proud, and I just got to meet you today. But thank you so much for having me today, Keith. Hello, everyone. My name is Akheem Mitchell. I am a senior here at Rollins College, majoring in political science, well, double majoring in political science and philosophy with minors in African American studies and ethics. I currently serve as the Student Government Association president. A little bit about me: I come from a neighborhood called Tangent Park, Florida. It's in Central Florida, Orlando, Florida. It's a small, low economic area filled with a majority of African American people. And so coming from that community, I really they kind of pushed me to keep going for more. It kind of pushed me to just do all of that I can, just because coming from that community and going to middle and high school outside of the neighborhood. So I started elementary school off in Tensel Park Elementary School, which is an elementary school inside a neighborhood. And then I moved on to go to predominantly white neighborhood, middle and high schools. And so going there, just seeing the difference between either whether it be the education that was provided as far as like resources or just opportunities that were given, or just seeing the different ways that certain Black students were treated because of where we come from, or just simply because of our race. It kind of put like in a way, how do I say this? It tried to diminish my light, or diminish our light, or try to keep us inside of this box of us not being able to really reach for or really obtain different attributes or skills or just goals in our life just because of where we come from and what we look like. So coming to Rollins, I kind of had that mindset already. In middle school, I was the Student Government Association, it was called Student Council, Student Body President. And then, but because of my experience in that atmosphere, just because once again of all the hardships and things that we had to go through at that time, I stopped doing it in high school until my senior year, when one of the advisors reached out to me and said they really think I should be a part of it. And being a part of it again that senior year really kind of lit a spark back into me, allowed me to want to be a part of this a little bit more. So once I got to Rollins College, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do SGA. I'm gonna get super involved. I'm gonna make this difference, just because Rollins is another predominantly white institution, and we're a small liberal arts school. So for us, the amount of students, at that time, I believe we had about 6% of our students were Black, or like 6 or 7%. And because we're a smaller school, that only means about maybe like 60 to 70 other Black students. So just seeing that disparity there, I really wanted to kind of be an advocate and be a representative that allows for our Black students to have a voice within a sense. So when I started my freshman year, I immediately once again got involved in SGA. Then I also got involved inside of our Black Student Union, along with our Ward Hall Council. So Ward Hall is like one of the dormitories on campus. And so I started on the Hall Council, and I was a social justice chair. And then became vice president, but that's because of somebody got kicked out. But so I was a social justice chair, and during that time period, I had events called Woke Wednesdays with King, where I would put on a movie. So one movie specifically that we put on was the Hate You Give. And so during that movie, during that time or that event, we watched the movie, and then afterwards, the residents in Ward Hall, we would have a discussion afterwards about what the movie means, and how we can apply to our real life, and how do we see what's happening in the movie happen at Rollins, and how can we do better as a Rollins community in order to make this a space where all of our marginalized students feel welcome. And so then moving on, my experience within SGA at first, within those first couple of years, it kind of pushed me to want to do more in SGA, just because me myself, I was probably one out of 4 members that were Black in SGA. And so during that time period, it was a little bit harder because you can definitely tell that even with some of the people who are on the different executive boards or in positions of leadership, that there was a disconnect or between the way some of us were treated versus some of them. And I won't get too much into that. But having seen all of that, it kind of pushed me and encouraged me to want to do more and do better, just because I know that I had the mindset of, if not me, then who? So I went after that. And so then my junior year, I became the student body vice president. So last year I was the student body vice president. And the person I ran along with, we ran on wanting to help create a better Rollins community for just for all students, but specifically for minority students, for their voices to be heard. And from that experience last year, seeing what it did for our minority students, to see a person that looks like me in that position kind of pushed me to want to take a next step. And so I then ran against the current president the president at that time, ran against him along with and my running mate. Her name is Sydney Sajoy. When I say she is the most phenomenal person you would ever meet, I mean, she is an amazing vice president. Not even a vice president, she's an amazing partner to go through this go through this whole thing with. And so we ran, and what we ran on were three topics. Three goals basically. It was community rebuilding, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and then mental health awareness and advocacy. And so for community rebuilding, seeing how when we came back from COVID, a lot of people in the Rollins community were kind of disconnected within a sense. We didn't really have, not to say that old feel, but we were behind the screen for so long that we weren't able to truly make those genuine relationships with one another. So wanting to bring that community sense back to Rollins and wanting to bring more events, more students out, and getting more students engaged with the actual Rollins community. And then for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, Rollins is going underneath a strategic plan underneath that topic. And so I sit on the steering committee for that strategic plan. And so utilizing not only just that plan, but also getting more cultural orgs involved and allowing for more minority students to feel welcome and accepted at the school was one of our big goals. And utilizing like the different things that are happening or what's happening underneath the strategic plan. So right now, SGA, myself and Cindy, along with some of our other senators, we helped push the intercultural competency here at Rollins. So making it a requirement, or a requirement priority to have our students take a course that teaches them more about DEI within a sense. And then also having more spaces for our athletes. Our athletes right now, they're specifically our Black athletes. We Cindy and I have one-on-one conversations with them every now and then, and they'll express to us some of the hardships that they're going through. So we've made a space for them we called it our Black Table Talk. But so we made a space for them to just come together and really talk about their experiences, and then allowing for that conversation to be brought up to their athletic director and the athletic director's boss, or whoever supervises them, just to bring that transparency and show that things need to be changed. And then lastly, mental health awareness and advocacy, just working with our wellness center to get those resources out to students who are dealing with mental health issues, or who are suffering right now and don't know where to go. So overall, that is what we ran on. And then by us winning that election, we became the first Black administration ever at Rollins. And then I became the first Black student body vice president and student body president. And then Cindy was the first Black woman student body vice president.
Awesome. I'm hearing themes from both of you about sort of centering your identity, seeing the challenges that you're facing and really challenges other folks are facing, and then wanting to do something about that, sort of for you, but also a longer legacy so that others don't face some of these challenges. So it's a little bit easier for others, and sort of beginning with sort of noticing your experience and then really wanting to contribute and pass that on. And then also, I heard from both of you just a real commitment from the very beginning of, I'm going to be involved. I'm not really sure what that's going to be. And it sounds like for both of you, it kind of emerged into the student government. But really for you saying, from the very beginning, I'm going to be involved. I'll figure out what that is and sort of what's going to emerge from there. You both talked a lot about the issues and topics that you're focused on and that you're running on and they're beginning to engage with. But I also wanted to chat with you a little bit about a little bit more personal experience. What did you experience? What did you face? What were the challenges that you were taking on? And really, what did you learn about yourself through this experience? So a little bit more personal. What did you learn about yourself through that experience? Akheem, let's start with you. What were some of the challenges that you faced, and what did you learn about yourself?
So I'll do one. So I'll break it off into one more like administrative wise, and then
Mhm.
another one personal.
Sure.
So administrative wise, a challenge that we faced was kind of getting people to change their mindsets, and not just our administration, but also our students. Specifically for our administration, and by administration, I don't just mean like the president and his
Mhm.
cabinet. I just mean administrators overall, getting
Mhm.
them to change their mindsets or not just do the same thing that's always been done just because it's always been done. I feel like right now, and it doesn't just apply to Rollins, but our current society,
Mhm.
a lot of times when people bring up change or want to do something different, it's viewed as no, or let's not do that because this is what's been done already. But when we do that, we limit the possibilities of increasing or growing a certain program or growing some of our missions here.
Mhm.
Right now, Rollins was founded on the ideas or the values of global citizenship and responsible leadership. And so, being that Sunny and I were coming in here with these broad, big ideas, it was sometimes challenging just to get certain people here on campus to kind of see what we were going with it or just really truly believe in it. But after a while, we were able to like get them to overall come to our side,
Mhm.
see where we're going, but just getting them to, in a sense, like trust us and give us that space to do what we need to do in order to help progress this campus community. And then on a more personal level,
Mhm.
one of the biggest challenges that I faced was kind of just having confidence in myself within a sense. So being that I was the first Black president, well, I am the first Black president, and I was the first Black student body vice president, there were different things as far as like certain stereotypes that surround like Black identities or like just Black people within positions of power. And so having said that, there was a lot of pressure of me feeling like I need to do this, or like I have to make this
Right.
difference, or I have to do something in order to show that I was here or like leave a mark, because if not, then people will say I didn't do anything. And
Mhm.
I just won because I was Black.
Mhm.
But overall, that kind of stifled my at first it kind of stifled my work and the things that I wanted to do, just because I was consistently in my head and overthinking about every little thing. But overall, I realized that even though there is that pressure makes diamonds. And
Mhm.
regardless, like you just got to get it done.
Mhm.
And who cares if a person says like, oh, he only won because he's Black, or he's or he's only pushing like different things for a certain part of the community, or he's not good enough. As long as I know myself that what I'm doing is important and is going to help benefit the community at hand, and I know genuinely that I'm listening to the people that I'm serving and doing the things that they're asking me to do or wanting to see on campus, then that's all that matters.
Mhm.
As long as you continue to let outside voices dictate your path, you'll never find the true path that's for you. So
Mhm.
those are my challenges, but overall,
Yeah.
I did pretty good at overcoming them.
That's great. Yeah, learning to handle sort of those inner voices in our head that informed by sort of all the messages and stereotypes and expectations, and learning to navigate that. I think that's great. It's great learning for all of us. JT, what were some of the challenges you faced, and what did you learn through this experience? What does it offer you?
Yeah. And first off, Akeem, I just want to say, you're good enough. I think sometimes it's very hard for us as Black student leaders, as Black men and Black student leaders on campuses, leading institutions that might not reflect us personally in the majority. So I do want to say that, and congrats on everything at your institution. So a little bit of background about the University of North Texas. Specifically, we are a minority serving institution, which means the majority of our population is majority minority students. We also are a Hispanic serving institution. So that goes to show we do have a very large Hispanic population that we serve as well. Over 61% of our students are first gen, and then over 83% of our students identify as left leaning or Democrat in a very red state. So I'm just giving this prefix to let you know kind of the student body that I'm serving. So I'll speak, I guess I'll do what Kim did as far as the personal, and then just being in the role, the challenges that I face. First, I think I'll talk about the administrative, then I'll go into the personal. I think administrative wise, some of the challenges that I think me and Aaliyah faced was I think, our admin, our school administration was used to SGA leaders who kind of just went with the go on. So they sometimes did the role, they would follow all the rules, they would just kind of go about their year, not really disturbing anything necessarily, but they would just kind of be like figureheads. So we'll invite you to convocation and the university days and graduations, and it's kind of like a puppet, and then kind of SGA does what they do, but it doesn't really impact student lives. More so, it focused on the internal SGA, which is our Senate, our judicial branch, the executive board, our intern program, our first year council. It's just very internal. So one thing that me and Aaliyah changed was being external, emphasis on external. With our programs that we did this year, with our events, like I said, we program more than anybody's program in the last 10 years, according to OrgSync and our files and what we know. And we spent a good chunk of our budget this year on programming and events and engaging with students, because we knew if we engage with students, that's how you properly are able to serve your student body. At least is what we believe. Because when you're serving and they're coming to your events and programs, they're able to tell you, more personally what's going on, in the classroom, what's going on outside of the classroom, what challenges are they seeing that they're faced. And from there, it helped us really gain structure into what we want to focus on. And one of those things was career readiness. We realized that a lot of people would graduate from our university, not have a job, not have an internship. And we thought, well, whose fault is that? Is it on the school? Is it the career center not doing their part? Or is it the students not being able to kind of be self-efficient in outreach? Like, who's the fault? And we just thought, well, let's not blame either one. Let's just bridge the gap, as SGA should do. And so from there, we created this long week of events that focused on career readiness, from an alumni panel. We did a employers dinner that was sponsored by Enterprise, where we brought in career coaches from each college to be there. We invited some employers to be there. And this dinner had over 150 guests. And the guest list was supposed to be like, I think 230, but we had to cut it to 150. So that let us know that we were on par and on track. And I use that example because that was one where in the beginning, we were a little bit hesitant, like, is this a good idea? Should we do it? But once we got involved with the Career Center, the communication was so great with the director. She was very responsive. I mean, we still have a great relationship to this day because she was so responsive and she wanted to help students. And then that engaged us and it went really, really well. And not only that, but also with the $15 minimum wage, that's what we tried to increase it to, right? SJ had advocated for that for years, but it kind of dwindled down because, they weren't, I don't know if it's the former administrations weren't pushing hard enough, but I think the difference between us and me and Aaliyah was that when we went in the meeting and they originally told us no, we went back and said, okay, well, if you tell us no, we'll go to the CFO. And this is us talking to the university president, like, if you're going to tell us no, we'll find another alternative option. And so we go to the CFO, and the CFO is like, okay, let's run the numbers. And he's like, okay, well, we can't push to 15, but we can push to $8. And then in the next year, I can push you guys to 9, and we'll create a plan, a pipeline to get us to 15. And then that ended up working out. So I think the biggest challenge was on the admin side was getting people to buy in, getting people to realize, no, we're not going to take no for an answer. And this administration is going to push for substantial change that can last past our years of being in student government. I think for me personally, the challenge came with being Black in this role. I mean, wow. I mean, the anti-Blackness has been shown and displayed time and time again. And whether that's from students, whether that's from, admin or just other people, it just really, really showed. I think if I was, I was joking, said if we were, and Aaliyah's a Black woman, if we were two white men in this position, people wouldn't question what we do. People would not think twice about what we're doing. But because we're producing great work, that leads to people questioning and wondering and things. And I think at the end of this year, I just realized, like, wow, we are making an impact and a change because we see the results. But then that leads a lot of people to question you and to wonder. And it was just recently we're questioned about our budget. And we're like, we've been as transparent as possible about our budget. And it's like, we show the list. We showed it to the party that was asking for it. We like, here's the expenditure list. Keep in mind, we can't make any purchases without approval from the school, right? So it has to go through the school first before we purchase anything. And that moment and that lesson taught me that no matter how many goals you accomplish, no matter what you do, sometimes as a Black person in these roles, there's, like Akheem kind of hinted at earlier, there's a level of expectation that you must be perfect, that you must go above and beyond, that you must work hard. And, as I reflect back on, former presidents that we had, I'm just like, they would never do this amount of programming, this amount of work, this amount of advocating, this amount of outreach to the student body. We had over 33 people run for Senate this past election term, which shows us that people are interested and that they want to run. We also have 2 presidential tickets. So it shows that our work is being seen and people want to be involved. Had this been past years, I'm not sure if that would have been accurate. I think last year we had 15 senators. The year before, it was like only 13. So the fact that we've doubled almost what our Senate expectation is for next year, the fact that we have increased our student engagement with students and actually made progress in changes, that if a student asks me today, what has student government done for us? I can say we've done this, this, and this for you. So yeah, those are kind of the challenges that I face.
Well, great. We're going to kind of pause here a little bit. We've got Jael here who's going to come in and join us. So Jael, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, so happy to be here. So my name is Jael Kerandi, and I attended the University of Minnesota and graduated in the spring of 2021. And I served as a student body president during my junior year. So kind of leading up to that journey through our SGA, started as a first-year intern in the program and then progressed to then serve with our Board of Regents. And so that was a role that represented our system and 500,000 students at the time, inclusive of kind of professional students, master's students, and also our undergraduate students. During that time, I then ran actually to be vice president, and our campaigns are done through tickets. Some schools I know are different, but we did them through a ticket. And at the time, we were successful on the ticket, a very contentious kind of campaign season, as I'm sure many understand the feeling of that. And then midway through my term, our president actually resigned, and I immediately assumed the presidency. When we were voted into office at the time, I was, based on how much history we had, the first Black vice president, and then assumed the first Black student body president, and finished out my term that July. After that, I actually returned back to serve for the Board of Regents and then finished out my collegiate career.
And, we've heard from JT and Akheem a little bit about some of their experience, but you're not in it. You have graduated, you have moved on. So maybe I'd love to hear from you as you look back on this experience. What do you see maybe not necessarily the role, but the leadership experiences, the challenges you faced? What has it taught you? What has it offered you? What now, as you're looking back on it, do you think this is really what I gained from that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think the higher education system is something that many people don't understand unless you're in the middle of it. And especially for a student coming in to advocate. I mean, going from, if you were in high school on student council or something, to understanding the leverage you have as a representative of students is a different jump. But more than that, I think first you have to understand the system that is your university, how the president works, how the committees work. And that in itself can often be a barrier because it's so large and there's a lot to learn in such a quick time to be effective. And so I think understanding systems quickly and then where the leaders and decision makers are is super key. And that translated, and that's going to translate anywhere, right? Understanding who key decision makers are. And then I think the next part of that is really learning how I would say my strategy when advocating with different leaders was always different, because you have to understand how that office operates and what they're willing to do, but also what goes as far. So I think it was always a matter of, how do you lead for these different things? And really, while you're the student body president, you're really just an advocate. That is your job. You are the champion of students. And at the end of the day, my job was solely responsible for students. Like, my job was not to an administrator. My job was not to the state, despite being a public land grant institution. My job was to advocate for students as hard as I could. And despite and above all that, that was what I was going to do. Anytime I sat in the meeting with the president, it was always 5,000 students who wanted this sitting right next to me, or X amount of students who wanted this sitting right next to me. I never sat in those rooms alone. So I think it's definitely dependent on that. And then the last thing is our student governments are built of leaders, right? Like everyone is a leader, everyone is an advocate, and really learning how to depend on each other. I think the job of the student body president could often be overlooked for how many, it feels like a second full-time job, 100%, and it is. And I think really learning how to depend on those around you who are supportive and are advocates as well is so important. And to this day, I still have so many conversations with the staff that I had the opportunity to lead and the individuals that I worked with.
So the 3 lessons I heard was how systems work and learning to understand them, to navigate them, really personalizing your approach with different units or different people, and then leaning on the people around you and not feeling like you have to do all this stuff. Are those things that are still serving you now?
Oh, 100%. I mean, really learning how to find your why in what you're doing, because once you figure out why you're doing what you're doing, everything else follows into question. Like I said, finding those decision makers makes a lot of sense. Knowing how to strategize and be thoughtful about your approach, and then leaning on those around you. I mean, that's going to happen in any organization you have the opportunity to lead.
Oh, great. JT, we'll go back to you, and I kind of want to smush these 2 questions together, just so we have enough time. But I'd love to ask each of you, for students who might be listening to this, who are thinking about running, are contemplating that choice, what advice would you give them, or maybe what advice would you give that version of you, right? Not knowing what you know now. And then many of our listeners are student affairs professionals who are working with student body presidents. What would you want them to know so that they can best support these leaders in their roles? So we'll go to JT, Akheem, and then Jael.
All right, and I just want to say, Jael, thanks for really bringing that understanding the system into play into this conversation. And that'll hit onto my first point as far as what I would tell an administrator and then what I would tell a student that's interested in this. To the administrator, I would tell you to support the students. I think that is very important and valuable to remember. I believe every higher education professional, you should have gained entry into this by at least on some solid ground wanting to help students. And I think we find a lot of administrators who have done this for their own ego, or who have done this just because they make 6 figures a year to kind of sit and really sometimes do nothing, or sit and protect the university. So that's what I would encourage the administrator to do, is just remember that student is there for a short amount of time. And that student needs you. It's nothing. I'm so grateful. That is one thing I'll be very grateful, and I would toot my university's horn at, is our Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. With, my president, Nelson Matris, my advisor, Krista Coffey, and I know I'm gonna miss some people, but Josh in the Multicultural Center, like I have a village of support from administrators who empower us every day to know that any goal is possible. Anything that you put your mind to can be set forward, any goal you have. And that empowerment has led to a successful student government year. None of the goals that we've accomplished from our platform, I think we just checked 2 weeks ago, we've completed 85% of our platform. That wouldn't have been possible without the support of our administrators. So that's what I would tell administrators: support these students, have their back. And when it comes to a crossroad, you really have to decide, do you protect the university, or are you going to really look after students, or just find a good balance in between? Because when you do understand these systems and these structures, you understand that, especially specifically public institutions in Texas. I go to a public institution, are ran kind of by the governor. I love to be very transparent with students. Say the governor runs the university, not the president, because the governor is the person responsible for appointing the Board of Regents. The Board of Regents appoints the chancellor, chancellor to the president, president to the VPs, and it directly impacts you. So that's kind of how the system works. And when you understand that, it's very easier to kind of comprehend that. So that's what I would say to admin: protect students, really have their back. Secondly, to a student that's interested in running, I would say figure out why. And don't run for the title. I promise you, it is not worth it. It's not worth it just standing up saying I'm student body president, because when you have those
look at everyone nodding their heads on that one. Everyone's nodding their heads.
People don't understand the life. I have so much respect for anybody that I meet that does student government in general, because that leadership is a hard, sometimes burden to have, because when you're in these rooms, especially if you're the president, sometimes you might be the only person in the room advocating for students. I was just on a search committee for 3 weeks, and the only student on that search committee, but hiring a very important role to our university. So I'm ensuring not only that I'm bringing my identity to the table, but so many other identities that weren't at that table. I had to ensure I'm kind of speaking up for and being a voice for, but not overshadowing them or telling wrong information, and make sure I'm speaking to fact and not feelings. So what I would say to the student is, don't do it for just the title. Make sure you know why you want to do it, and make sure you bring your village with you. That is so important. I'm so blessed to have ran with somebody that was my friend that knew me for me and Ali have known each other for over 7 years, right? And luckily we went to the same high school and came here. But I say that to say, when you have that sense of support, anything is possible when you have community. So make sure that you have a community and just don't do it for the title. So yeah.
That's great. Great. Akheem, what advice would you have for that version of you that was contemplating this? And what advice would you have for student affairs folks and how they can support?
So I just want to say, JT, I mean, you hit it on the nail. I mean, I was going to say kind of near exactly what you were saying. So I'm going to split it up as well well, obviously, but for the student affairs, just really, along with that support, encourage your students to want to do more. Don't just stifle them or keep them inside of one specific box that you want them to be in, just to, in a sense, please the college. For us, it's kind of different. So Rollins is a small liberal arts institution. So we don't, and it's private, so we don't really follow directly what the state or the governor says. We have our own like board of trustees who approve everything that happens at the college, along with like the president and his cabinet. But don't just have your students doing something, or just be, like you said, kind of that show person to say, oh, look, they're doing so many good things, but the good things that they're doing is only because it's only the agenda that you want them to push. Allow them to have kind of what I said earlier, allow them to help try to push their own things or help grow the institution in the ways that they see best. Because sometimes these administrators, some of them might have gone to Rollins for like, or years in the past, and they want to have that same Rollins that they had before. But that same Rollins is not what students want today. Students today want the Rollins that you are showing them in your catalog when you're browsing or when you're advertising it to them. And students at Rollins want to help just update a college. And I don't even think that's just students at Rollins. Those students in general, people want to keep progressing. People want to keep growing. But when you hinder and you stifle that growth, then you just create more like discomfort and more tension and animosity within their own community. So don't stifle that growth. Encourage your students to want to do better, and encourage them to do more. And like kind of like what JT said, thankfully, Cindy and I, with our administration, our vice president of student affairs, her name is Donna Lee. Woo! When I say that lady don't play, that does not play. She rides for us. She always speaks for the students. She always thinks of us first. And I think that's one of the main important things as an administrator to do. Not only push your own agenda, but thinking of the people that you're serving first. Just because you have this role, just because you have this title, doesn't mean that you have the capability, or that you should have the capability just to decide on what you want to do, just because that's something that you want to do. You serve a greater and broader community. It's not just about you, it's about others that are kind of the stakeholders at your institution. So now going into the students, for students wanting to pursue this role, this kind of goes off of what JT said a little bit too. Know that your impact does not depend on your position. So understanding that, once again, just because you're the student body president, that doesn't mean you're going to have this great impact. You don't have an impact because you're student body president. You have an impact because you're JT. You have an impact because you're Jael. You have an impact because you're Akheem. It's about your character within those genuine conversations, or those individual conversations and connections that you're making, that helps create an impact. Before I became the student body president, I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but this is like something that like other people were telling me. This is something that other people was telling me, that I was truly helping them make a difference or helping them enjoy their experience at Rollins. But it wasn't because I was student body president. Being student body president helped me connect to a greater community. Don't get me wrong, it helped get my platform up there, but the work was already there before the platform. So don't just think that, oh, I want to be student body president because I want to make this great impact. No, that impact that you want happens just based upon who you are in general. Position helps, but it's not the determinant of how you make that impact. So that's what I was saying.
Great. Jael, how about you? I saw you nodding the head and
no,
snapping.
I mean, I'm just, first of all, I'm like take me back right now. I think first, for administrators, I think you have to look at your role at a university less as a job and more as a steward of the university. Yes, we have our board of regents, board of overseers, trustees, whatever it might be at your university, who are somewhat state mandated if it's a public institution to take care of the university, but each administrator should also hold that role importantly. And the reason I say that is, at a public institution, you kind of have really true streams of income. It's your state and it's your students. And we are continuously seeing this dichotomy of like really watching our state support sometimes fall, right? So students are seeing an increase to their tuition and becoming a deeper stakeholder and investor into our institution. And anywhere where you invest, you expect a return. And the people who are supposed to be guaranteeing that return are administrators, are our leaders, are our board, making sure that students are receiving not only their learning, but the experience that's promised to them. And what Akheem just said, what you put on the website has to match what you do in practice. The recruitment policies and the ways in which we recruit students to our university have to match what we do. When you're an administrator, you have to learn to remove the respectability politics and really say, what do students need? And in what ways do students need these things? And it's really your job to do that. I don't actually, it's actually your duty, right, to some extent. So I think to administrators who are looking to support students, I understand that sometimes it's a risk and it shouldn't be. Frankly, it should not be. So what students need and the support that students are looking for should be an earnest kind of perpetual thing that you're seeking. You should be constantly trying to navigate what the students you need today, whether it's a class of 2024, 2026, 2038, you should continuously be thinking and anticipating the needs of students today as they continue to proceed. And at the one thing I think about administrators really having to learn is, why do students need these things? I think their experience when they went through school, whether it was a master's program, an undergrad, whatever, is going to be different. So while those experiences are valid, really taking the time to know what your students need and how they need it is important. And then to students, administrators are there to support you, but that's not who you represent. So I always would say, I would have to go toe to toe or say what I needed to say in a meeting, and we could be perfectly fine after, but understand that we are not, my interest is not necessarily to be your friend in that moment. It's to make sure students are represented in the conversation. And like Jermaine said, you are so key to very really hard conversations, whether they're hard or super important, search committees, whether you are the only person in the room being asked a question. You know, I was student body president as COVID was starting, and I was sending like 15 emails at 6 a.m. every day to any and each administrator, letting them know this is what students need in this area. I got this request, this is being expected. And you have to be relentless. Your efforts must be relentless to really be successful, because at the end of the day, to be frank, some administrators are ready to wait students out. But you know what? As long as I'm here, you're going to have to keep waiting, because you have to be relentless and you have to keep going. And you have to really take that responsibility so deeply. You cannot do it for the title. It will not be rewarding if you do it for the title. You will get exhausted, because at the end of the day, when you are through 18 to 20-hour days, because we are still students, you have to really find a way to be centered and grounded. And I often found that in whatever your support is, making sure you have people around you that are checking on your mental health, having people that are around you ready to support you, because it's not just the will to run, but it's the will to lead. And that has to continue throughout your entire appointment. And that can often be difficult. So I always say, if you know someone, like, you know, JT said, if you know anyone in SGA, everybody's putting in that effort. It's not just the SBP that is putting their efforts on the line and their advocacy on the line. And it's kind of up to us to cultivate those leaders who are also ready to be in these positions and do this. So I would tell them, know your why, know why you have this deep responsibility to do what it is, and be prepared to remember your power. I think sometimes administrators can often see student government as this small section, this small slice. Okay, we might be small, but we're mighty. And I think being really prepared to exert that power wherever necessary to make sure you advocate.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, we are running out of time. And so the podcast is called Student Affairs Now. And we would love to end each of our episodes with just asking each of you, what are you thinking about? What are you troubling? What are you pondering now? It might be something from this conversation or something that your campus is facing, or and then if you want to share with folks where folks can connect with you, feel free to go ahead and do that. JT, let's kick it off with you. What are you troubling now?
Well, first off, I want to say I'm just so honored to be here and amongst such great leaders and such great people. It seems like very grateful for the opportunity to be here and for what this podcast is doing. I think for me, I'm part of a couple of things from this conversation, right? I'm thinking about my future. So currently, right now, like I told you, I'm on the pre-law track. I'm currently studying for the LSAT as we speak, and then I'm going to take a gap year and move to DC, do a gap year there, and then go into law school. But you know, God is very interesting. I'm a man of faith. So God is very interesting. And as I'm reevaluating this conversation and everything that we learn, I know later in life that I would like to go into higher ed, but I'm pondering like, do I go to law school or do I get a master's and go the PhD route and go straight into higher ed or do something else? I think that that's what I've been kind of pondering here lately, even though, I'm currently in the process of studying for the LSAT. I've always had this dream of going to law school and been this super duper lawyer and helping people, right? But I think my experiences in life in this undergrad experience has taught me the power of when you understand a system, how you can help so many people. And that's something that a lot of people in student affairs don't have. They don't usually, they come in with a feeling like they want to help students, but they don't come in with this experience of like working in orientation, working in housing, working at this big time position now, working with the university president. These are valuable experiences. And the way that our student government function is, it is its own department. So I kind of consider it like its own baby business. We have about $100K budget every year. As student body president, you manage about 9 people on your executive staff that are also paid. So it's also like these experiences have shaped this identity and this kind of nuance of me understanding how this system works and how powerful it can be if you use it correctly. And even if you're looking at now, and I'll wrap up here, even if you're looking at kind of the personal side of Texas, currently right now, our legislator is attacking public higher ed institutions. There are several bills that could be taking away vulnerable, marginalized groups, communities, like our Pride Alliance, which is for our queer folks, and like our Multicultural Center, which is for Black and Brown students to feel more connected and engaged, and then any other diversity and inclusion practices are under attack right now in our state for public institutions. And I think that is what scares me as well. And that is what something I've been pondering on is, what are students in Texas, what are we going to do if these bills do pass and they become effective immediately? So those are the 2 things on my mind: the future, and then the future of myself personally, and the future of just future students that are going to come to my university. So yeah.
Awesome. Akheem, how about you? What are you troubling now?
So right now, well, first, I just want to say thank you again for inviting me and allowing me to be on this conversation with these phenomenal people. I just want to echo what JT was saying. This conversation has it's not only been good to just share some thoughts and some insights, but it's also begin to just take in some wisdom from these other phenomenal, not even student leaders, people in general. The one thing that's troubling me right now, or just that's on my mind, I'm a very optimistic person. So just optimism right now, just hearing from this conversation and just hearing what was being shared. I'm just optimistic about the future, just because there might be a lot of dark things out there in the world right now. Knowing that people like us exist out there gives me faith, and it gives me hope that it's going to be a brighter day. It's going to, like, every day the sun will shine, but that's why we love tomorrow, So that's why we love tomorrow. But right now, another thing that's troubling me right now. So I'm also with, I'm not on, well, we don't specifically have a pre-law like program here, but it's kind of like a pre-law guidance within a sense by one of our professors, Dr. Small. And right now in the process of trying to get into law schools, I've applied. I'm still waiting to hear back from different schools. Haven't heard anything yet. So just trying to see where my future lies and what's going ahead. We currently just elected our new president and vice president for the next academic school year, and helping them right now has been one of my main goals, or main main things I'm not to say worried about, because I'm not worried with them, just because I know that they got it. The president-elect, she serves as our D&I chair for this school year. So she's phenomenal. I mean, she does what needs to be done. We've sat in multiple meetings on the strategic plan for DIB here at the college, and knowing that she's already been in the work and that she's committed to the work and she's passionate about the work has me thinking that it's gonna be a great time. But as of right now, I mean, I'm living.
All right.
I'm living. And I mean, that's all. I feel like that's all you really can do, is just consistently, like, just try to live and just strive for what's best and just put it in God's hands. So I don't know. I'm just grateful.
Awesome. Jael, what are you pondering now? What's on your mind?
Yeah. I think hearing this conversation has been important, and it always kind of, gives me energy. I think we always have to find things in life that are life-giving, and this was one of them. But when I think of really kind of what's on my mind, leaving the university, or leading at the time that I did, was during the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, where I was also student body president. And the activism that our student government participated in was phenomenal. And having the opportunity to lead students through that and be their advocate was very important to me. I think leaving the university, a lot of people are like, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? And I always said, Godspeed. But more than that, I said, it doesn't matter where I go, because I'll be an activist wherever I go. You could kind of throw me into any pocket and any pool, and I'm going to figure it out. Because activism to me is not exclusive to a space or a time or a person. So my activism, I'm in finance and I'm in tech. My activism translates there as well, but I'm always thinking about, what are students doing? I had the opportunity to speak at Princeton last month, and just engaging with students was so invigorating. So I feel like my heart is always going to be where the students are, because I truly do understand the power of education. But it's really activism wherever I go, and trusting that we have leaders like JT and Akheem that are not only there, but coming up. Like, there's so many leaders that are on the way to make these changes, because I don't want our universities to forget what 2020 was, whether it was the pandemic or the racial discrimination that we faced or continue to face. So that's what's top of mind of me, is we have to make good on those promises. And I cannot wait to read about the students that are continuously doing that. And I think you also asked about how to connect with us. You can kind of find me by my name in various forms on socials and LinkedIn or wherever it might be.
Awesome. Well, this has been terrific. Thanks to each of you for being with us, joining us, sharing your experience, and for your leadership on campus. I think this will be really valuable to many to learn from you. Thanks for your leadership and your contributions.
Oh,
and
Keith,
thanks.
can I put in?
Yeah.
Can I put in how they can communicate with me?
Yeah.
As
go
well?
ahead.
I want to do that. Okay. So you can communicate. You can kind of search my name as well and connect with me on my LinkedIn. If you have any other, like, if you want to send a personal email, it's just my first name, so Jermaine R and then dot and then Turner, my last name, at gmail.com. So yeah, that's how you can reach me.
And Akheem, do you want to jump in?
Yes, I'll jump in. So for me, it's basically the same. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, it's just Akheem Mitchell, my name. And then if you would like to send a personal email or just reach out in any other forms, my email is my first name, last name. So AkeemMitchell@gmail.com. If you want to look at my Instagram is Akeem._.
Awesome. Well, thanks to all of you, and hopefully folks will connect with you. We also want to conclude with thank you our sponsors of today's episode, Simplicity. Simplicity is the global leader in student services technology platforms with state-of-the-art technology that empowers institutions to make data-driven decisions specific to their goals. A true partner to the institution, Simplicity supports all aspects of student life, including but not limited to career services and development, student conduct and well-being, student success, and accessibility services. To learn more, visit simplicity.com or connect with them on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Huge shout out to our producer, Nat Ambrosi, who does all the behind-the-scenes work to make us all look and sound good. And if you're listening today and not already receiving our weekly newsletter, please visit our website at studentaffairsnow.com and scroll to the bottom of the homepage to add your email to our MailChimp list. While you're there, check out our archives. I'm Keith Edwards. Thanks again to our fabulous guest today and to everyone who is watching and listening. Make it a great week. Thanks all.